I bought it with Public Works money.
Easy now.
Not right.
Thank you. Okay, so it's Wednesday, May 3rd, about 7:13. Go ahead and call the meeting, the budget meeting number 2, back to order. Jackie, please give a call, please.
Yes. Mayor Cutchin,
Here.
Linda Kammerer,
Here.
Linda Dunham,
Here.
Lisa Samuelson,
Here.
Seema Lavelle Beers,
Here.
Counselor Bjornson,
Here.
Counselor Hooker,
She has an excused absence tonight.
thank you. Brenna Chrisman,
Here.
Counselor Tarman,
Here.
Counselor Hollett,
Here.
Ben Sakdiva,
Here.
Jan Christensen,
Here.
Counselor Coker.
She's gonna be late.
Okay. Counselor Kenyon,
Here.
that's all.
Okay, move on to public comments. I have one from Trudy Hammond, Committee Chair of the Public Safety Advisory Committee. There's a recommendation to City Council and Budget Committee. The Public Safety Advisory Committee voted unanimously during their meeting on Tuesday, April 25th, 2023, to recommend to City Council and the Budget Committee that both bodies consider increasing funding for animal control services during the current budget process dated 4/25/23.
Is there any public comment online? If so, raise your hand icon. Oh,
Go ahead, Trudy.
Trudy Hammond, 76349 Willamette Way. I just wanted to thank Brenda for reading that. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And then moving on to continue discussion of proposed fiscal year 23-24 budget. Public Works, OIP, Water, Parks budgets to be discussed today. Yeah. Do complex structures. Pass to that, so
because it's a continuation. We'd be having to learn. It's my.
Thank you very much. Never said that. I said about meeting minutes as long as I was.
We're not supposed to adjourn. We may have technically said adjourn, but in the agenda, it's a continuation because it's all supposed to be one meeting. Otherwise, we have to do a public notice in the newspaper for every single meeting. So it's made clear in the agenda that
Like on the notice, you didn't put each of the days you already had scheduled for the budget calendar.
That's normally what we do.
that's been done. Can't remember what the newspaper article. No, I think it did include it. Yeah. But technically they're continuations.
Just to be safe, I'm going to declare potential conflict of interest with spouse for the city of Oak Ridge and the fire department. I will also declare a potential conflict as it works to the city of Oak Ridge's Public Works Department. For him.
Yes.
Yeah, that's me, Counselor Bjornson.
Go ahead.
I'm declaring a potential conflict of interest because I'm on the volunteer roster at the fire department.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Zolper.
Are you ready? All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. So at Public Works, we work out of many funds to include streets, OIP, water, wastewater, stormwater. And we also work out of Parks and WAC fund, which I'm saving for discussion during the general fund. So tonight we'll discuss the 5 main Public Works funds. I'll be starting with the proposed changes to include the compressed and combined line items. And then I will also discuss the proposed Public Works SB level. Jumping right in, what you see here is
Vic,
yes,
would you mind letting us know what page you're on when you're referring to pages?
absolutely. So we are on, so this here refers to the streets, which is
Hold on.
page 21. So what you see here is actually, right now, we're just discussing the proposed changes. On your left-hand side, you see the personnel services, which is similar to what we've done, or exactly what we've done in the past years. And then right below it, you see how everything is combined, the colors all match up. Health insurance, Viva contributions, life was combined into one line. And then wages was everybody's wages combined in one line as well. So this would be one of the proposed changes from the auditors. And then same thing with on the other side, we've combined a bunch of materials and services. Into, for example, you can see seasonal workers, travel and training, was combined with professional services. Question?
Excuse me. I noticed in personnel services, health insurance and PERS are broken out. But is everything else that's a part of, you know, like paid time off or et cetera, is that all that included in the wages line?
Yes, you can see here, what is all included in the wage line is the green. So everything up there is included, is all condensed into the one line that coordinates with the colors below. The wages includes workers' comp, payroll tax, overtime, standby, and then all utility workers, 1, 2, 3, 1A, 1B, superintendent, vacation buyout, floating holiday, and floating holiday 2.
And I assume we will be putting the combinations as a footnote. No. Eventually.
Right, that was. So, and then similar with the materials and services lines, you can see the combinations that happen there as well. No, these here will definitely put in the footnotes. We just did not have time to do that for tonight's meeting. Any questions, comments, or concerns before I move on? Yes.
I think that someone had asked at the last meeting if we could actually get the file where we could open this and we were told we would. Is that still possible?
The ending file is a file. This one, this is a different file, which I'd be happy to send out as well.
I just know everybody in the spreadsheet. It doesn't have all this in it. It takes a lot to combine stuff. But in your email, you do have your full everything.
Which will show the 2 bottom examples, not the 2 top examples. But I'd be happy to send over that one, which gives the breakdown of how everything was.
I guess
organized
either
here.
way, I thought someone had asked for the full file where we could, you know, click on the drop down menu that shows it. Everything combined onto a line.
That's done.
No, that, we asked her to actually do that. And so that's what she's just done, but she hasn't had the ability to move it into the main budget spreadsheet yet.
There was some with the general fund in here. Like with We'll have all of it.
Yeah, I did see that on some of them there. Okay, so in other words, all these that he's showing us that it's gonna get headed in, there's a page.
Sure. All right, so.
Rick, I'm sorry. For professional services, what would be rolled into that? Would that be engineering?
Yeah, professional services, always been engineer.
Okay.
But we've also rolled into it, travel training and seasonal workers for this round.
Okay.
And then, these are for the street fund. This is the proposed SB 11, the public works savings account that I'm hoping to propose. You can see here, transfers out of street fund. And those are lines 35 to 36 on page 21. And you can see it transferred over to SB 11, which is page 29. And then you can kind of see the breakdown of how that works out. So for example, the way you see here is a new vehicle every 3 years. With this pay schedule, and out of the streets, we are also trying to save up money for a new street sweeper. And as you can see, there's also a contribution out of stormwater, which we'll get to when we get to the stormwater budget. So moving on, same thing, OIP budget, we're gonna have a bunch of these. Just everybody wants an example of what was combined into what. But they're all the same manner, they're all the same flavor. You're trying to find those in the paperwork you have in front of you, you're only gonna find the two bottom ones. Again, transfer to proposed work SB 11 for the OIP. This one's not much, it's $9,000. We're asking for them to OIP to pitch in on the vehicles. It's really not a whole lot. So, and for water, we have an underground aquifer, 4 wells and well houses. We do have more wells, but not all of them are online. 3 1 million gallon reservoirs, 22 plus miles of water mains, over 375 mainline valves, chlorine contact chamber, 2 pump stations, over 30 pressure reduction valves, over 180 fire hydrants, and over 1,500 connections to home and businesses that we maintain and operate. Again, you see the same thing here. And again, if you look into the paperwork, you only see the 2 bottom ones. Any questions? I was hoping. These seem pretty. What's that? Go ahead.
We have LB instead of SB, is that a typo?
Where do you, which page?
Line 33. I was just trying to catch up with what you're referring to. Is that SB Central or what is it?
LB is one of the forms, form number.
Yeah, it has to be the phone number.
Oh,
LB.
LB.
I consider LB as the.
Do I keep saying it wrong? Okay.
The top of LB 10, the line 33 says LB 11.
Awesome. But LB it is. Sorry about that confusion.
Okay.
And then again, from the water fund, we're asking them to pitch in for quite a few more items that they use that we are in need of. And then we also in the LB 11, which I do have a typo on here of SB.
That's what SB is.
That's where the SB is, yes. You can see there's some infrastructure upgrades that are water specific as well. So while we are asking for them to pitch in on other stuff, the ones you see down in your lower corner is water infrastructure specific. And then again, vehicles. Those are the vehicles we're hoping to save up for. The orange on that you see on those is our goal to reach, that's what we reach to get that vehicle or get that item. Seeing no questions, I'll go ahead and move on. It's just gonna be the same flavor with wastewater. We have 22 miles of sewer, 3 lift stations. We're anaerobic bacteria and 2 sequential batch reactors. That's our SBRs and ultraviolet light strips. That's how we treat.
That's fine, treat.
Yes.
Thank you. Again, you see how everything is combined, same flavor as last time. I just wanted to put this out here so that everyone has a chance to see it. And so most of this part is gonna be very similar. Give me a chance for questions if you see anything. And then again, SBS. LB 11 does for wastewater treatment plant does have its own specific items we're hoping for. One of the ones I think on here is extremely important. Towards the bottom is a property purchase. We a couple of years ago, the Forest Service said that in the future you will need to purchase that property. We have no idea how much it's going to be. I think $400,000 is at least something. It's a good place to start. I can go into details if there's any questions, but unfortunately, we do not have a price tag for the property yet.
And they said it's gonna take them a couple of years from today, well, a month ago. To come up with that, right? Oh, it's a slow process.
And then again, yes,
Can you say again where, I think what I heard is that you're planning on saving for that purchase? And where is that on what line in the,
that would be in the LB, that's in the LB, the proposed LB 11. And that is
29,
page 29.
I think so.
Right.
Yep.
That would be in the background data that you would make it here.
reserve fund?
Right, so the property purchase for this year, thank you for pointing that out, is on page 29, LB 11. And that is just for this year alone. But for the longevity of it, that would be background data. And it goes along with the LB 11.
So that is money that's being set aside, it's not actually gonna be spent this year.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So everything on LB 11 is money set aside, not spent this year.
Oh, okay.
So next year, that all be rolled into reserve for future expenditures, is that where that will show up?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
You are absolutely.
And again, similar to the water, we're asking the wastewater fund to contribute on the vehicles it uses.
I'm sorry.
Back up 1 second. I didn't quite hear what you were saying, Colleen. You said you were opening that account.
We're gonna open accounts. They have the accounts. I wanted to back up just a bit to focus on what Ryan just mentioned. That in the future, we would put new line for save for future expenditures. But why not put it in this budget? Because right now, it looks like we're planning on spending this unless we have a line that says reserve for future. Then that,
But that's the point of the SB 11.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, it goes to the.
It's anything that goes into that SB 11. Thank you. Why don't you keep saying that? If LB 11 will be set by ordinance, that it could only be taken out of the LB 11 at the time of purchase of the item.
It's reserve.
Yeah, it's a reserve fund. So it will be in, so here we're looking at wastewater. So once it leaves the $60,000 leaves the wastewater fund, it will be in the LB 11 fund. And it won't pop back up in the wastewater fund today.
right, it's not gonna roll back in or anything. So, right, okay. I'm with you.
Then, stormwater, there's a few minor combined lines, similar to everything else, it's just stormwater that has less. And again, stormwater we're asking to contribute to the vehicles, not much, but the contribution, and then again to the vehicles as well. So that is the end of what I had. If there's any questions before we go into the actual line by line opportunities, I'm more than happy to answer.
I have a quick question. Will we be able to, ask questions regarding these funds in future meetings? I'm only asking because right now, today, I'm not prepared to ask questions because I was waiting to see the actual updates. So,
If that's necessary, I mean, if it's needed, I don't see why that wouldn't
okay.
be an issue.
I'd say everything's getting, you vote on it.
Thank you.
I noticed some of this stuff was blank before, and you guys just got it now. So I don't expect too many questions, but I'm definitely here for them if you have them. And
I just thought of a question real quick. Stormwater fund I'm looking at,
Page.
it's page 28,
Mhm.
line 8, materials and supply. Looks like it was reduced by $10,000, half of what it was originally budgeted for.
Because the original version went out and had professional services wrapped into M&S,
Okay,
so that's why there's that difference.
Rick, you're gonna step through each of these funds individually now anyway, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
oh, okay, we're gonna go through, okay.
So just as a warm-up, then will there be other reserve funds that you're going to be explaining as you go through each one? For example, for infrastructure, sewer pipes and all that. City.
We don't really have a lot of infrastructure proposed in this budget. That's something that would take, we would have to pretty much start within the next couple months for next year. So, no, we did not have time to propose infrastructure.
And that's typically grant funded.
Grant loans, savings account, there's a number of ways to be funded. So, I'm going to start with page 21. I don't know, you all want to go line for line? What is your thoughts? I do realize everybody just got this, so
I think line by line might
I think
appropriate. Mine.
all right.
Good. We'll do one on that.
All right, so. ODOT appointments is, that's taxes that we received.
Actually, the first one I have a question on.
Oh, yes, sorry.
So net working capital, the initial copy we got was 202,808. And now it's 299,145. And is there a reason that we're changing the
Always for that one.
network working capital?
Yeah, because we actually got ending balances for fiscal year 22. So we're working on that.
Okay,
I think I was putting that. You said there was.
yeah, 202,808.
So line 4, ODOT appointments, that is funds we get from ODOT for some of the taxes that they share with us. And that number you see there was a projection made off of a projection of what we've currently received and projected out for the rest of the year at the rate we've been receiving. Fuel dealer's license, that is our own city fuel tax. And again, that number was a projection, which could have been kind of low due to COVID actually put more people in the vehicles last year, so I think that's why it was higher, so I think that's why it went down. State highway rest area, that's the rest area out of Green Waters, and we received that funding for that. ODOT small city allotment is a grant we will be applying for once we are completed with Cherry Street. LID number 20 has 3 more years that we should be receiving funding for. And I'm pretty confident we'll receive those at the end of an LID, or actually back up. When a person who has an LID sells their property, they pay in full. The 3162 that you see here is pretty consistent because those are the amounts that the school has been paying on LID number 20. LID number 21 is people sold their properties and paid in full. Miscellaneous income is a projection of what we currently have and then projected out the rest of the year. Yes, Councilor Kenyon.
I see in a former budget that we had lids number 19, 20, 17, and 21. So 19 and 17 are not on here, but we're supposed to carry 3 years prior on here, and those fall into that we received money. So those are gonna need to be added back in.
Okay.
Just to show the actuals from preceding years. And in fact, wanted to also think line 4 where you called it ODOT portionments.
Apportionment, yeah.
In previous budgets, that was called a state gas tax. So there should probably be a reference to the change in the name.
Any other?
Well, I actually want to question something else too. I'm seeing that, line 6, state highway rest area shows actuals for preceding years 21, 22, and 23. But prior budgets don't. So, received documents.
For the holiday for a couple of years. When I first got here, they hadn't claimed for it for a long time.
I know, I remember that. So what I'm saying is now the new budget shows that we did receive money in those years. Prior budgets show that we didn't. So that makes me wonder.
Well, we're putting actuals in there though, right?
Yeah.
You're just saying that's 21. Budgets for 21 and 22. We actually didn't show anything on those budgets for that line item.
No, you're right. This is an old budget, 21, 22, where we were working on, and the prior years are in here. Highway rest area shows 0, 0, 0, 0. But this new one shows that we did receive money. So that's confusing.
Correction.
No, I mean, it's there, the money was there.
Do you receive money for like?
We received money that wasn't budgeted for, so I mean, it's on here because it was actual money that we received.
Well, I was just wondering if you get 10,000 from the state every year and that extra money was from something else. Somebody renting it like Greenwater Park or something.
So are you talking about the difference between the 21, 22, and 22, 23?
Yeah,
So that to me is an accounting error. So whoever had received this funds in advance and didn't put it in the correct spot to.
Actually, we were so far behind, we claimed 2 years worth of reimbursements in one ask. I think that's why it was high.
Oh, okay, I was thinking maybe we received something.
I talked about it, well, hey, you're years.
Okay, all right.
So, but to answer your question, we have an intergovernmental agreement with the city and ODOT to operate the rest area at Greenwaters. Because they're charged with having rest areas for travelers. And because it's on our dirt and our crew maintain it. They give us money for that.
thank you.
Right. Oh, my question would be, so, Colleen, if, if you were to find an error now in your accounting system that applies, you know, like maybe back in, one of these years, 2021, for example, some funds were, coded to another line that belonged on this,
Mhm.
and you fixed that.
Well, we let it go back and fix it, once the years are closed, yeah. Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it.
What is it? It's like, it's zero. Yeah, in prior budgets, it's zero all the way in all history. So.
She's getting a comment saying zero. That can- the date wouldn't change.
Colleen saying that she fixed it for this budget,
Right,
because we actually.
I don't know, I didn't
It should
do
be
it.
a zero there. The Brian's talking about is double or triple that here.
Well,
So-
21 here says zero.
So what you're trying to say is that we scratch these numbers out at zero?
I'm saying that we're not supposed to go back and change numbers when
No.
we say they're actual, so it's budget law, you can't change it.
I think we should maybe consider calling the state of Oregon.
Actually, these numbers are in here from this current budget, so I didn't, that's what was in there already. I'm looking at 22, 23, and they're all three in there. Well, I don't know.
Okay, I'll call.
I mean, all I do is move on over.
It's gained by calling about those numbers, it's gone by, it's locked down.
Like, I haven't changed anything in those actual lines. I just moved them over, so whatever was in there was in there. I have no idea.
Okay, thank you.
Alright, any other questions for resources?
I have one more. The LB 17 actually fell off this year. That's why it's.
You still have to show. Oh, you're saying it fell off?
Yeah. It's moved on.
4 years old.
Yeah.
Um,
This is,
okay.
this is
17, what about, what about 19?
I don't even see 19 on last year's at all, so maybe it fell off then and requires some looking further back.
Right.
There's questions for resources. Going once, going twice. Alrighty, personnel services is what I briefly mentioned earlier. It's also what is on your screen. Any questions in those regards? And same for materials and services.
Well, let's stay on personnel services for a minute. Just wanted to know where we got our figures from, like how on earth is PERS going down?
Looks like they dropped from 1.0 to 8.
Yeah,
Which one are they?
FTE changed.
116.
What are we in?
16.
No personnel services.
But it does,
Decrease first.
right, but our PERS contributions are going up. Last I heard.
Yeah, but if we decreased people.
I get that. I just want to make sure that we're accounting for the rate increases.
So we've also had people that were PERS top tier. Who have retired and are no longer in the calculation.
Yeah.
Right, correct.
So that makes my same question for wages, since we're doing a 3% increase, but we've lost employees that are.
Such very tenured
Yeah.
staff member.
The rest of the streets.
Just one professional services, what do you credit the large increase there, is it the construction?
And combinations, so we combine,
Okay,
yeah, we combine.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
What about utilities? That looks like it's gone way down.
The utilities have gone down due to the increase of streetlights that are being changed to LED. So it's cutting costs on our electric bill.
From 70,000 down to 8,000.
I don't know what to do that with, but it's
And
My opinion.
so less. That I'm gonna say is a mistake.
Huge.
Has been-
Those are some really fancy lights.
That. Check for a typo, for sure. Funds, once,
In general, I have one thing in general. So we start the year at 299, 145 net working capital.
Mhm.
And when we're all said and done, what's left over is reserve for future expenditures, right?
correct.
That's 151.99. So we have an operating deficit, if you take into account, we have an operating deficit of 150 for the year. But I understand that of that, 109 is going to the reserve fund, which is fine, but it still gives us an overall operating deficit for the fund itself, which in my mind is unsustainable over long.
Correct. On that thought process, a handful, this, for example, new equipment, street sweeper is. Okay, so that's 100,000, so that one, new equipment street sweeper was increased because I was under the impression that there was $50,000 that was put aside from last year's budget that was never spent.
Right.
And then, so the following year would be only $50,000, so there would be that bit of a difference as well.
Okay, so you're saying next year we're only gonna
Yes,
spend $50,000 to the reserve fund?
correct.
Okay,
It-
but we're spending 100 this year.
So, and you can see that right here, so.
Brian, could you explain what you mean by an operating deficit?
So if you take away the money you had for net working capital beginning balance, or if you compare that to what you have left over, what you have budgeted to be left over after you're done,
Oh, I see.
there's a difference of 150. But 109 of that's going to reserve funds, so that's acceptable for a time, but so what I'm saying is day-to-day operations, you're operating at a deficit, which will eventually eat away what you have left over, that you don't have anything. So to me, you have to operate balanced.
Well, the revenues are more than prior years, so wouldn't that account for that? Yeah.
No, I'm using this year's network working capital is what we're saying that is, and it's obviously it's been validated now, so.
So 300,000 start
We have
with.
300,000 to start with. When we get done with the year, we have 151. So. We're not
What
operating,
about the utilities, if that's not right? If it's $70,000 off or something?
I'm just saying as a philosophy, I think we need to,
We get it.
Yeah.
That would put it worse in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
anyway, that's all.
I'm just curious, where are we accounting for the roughly $250,000 grant that we just received?
That one we're hoping to have spent before this budget. So you talk about Cherry Street.
No, you're talking about the $250,000 grant we got for wildfire abatement projects, was basically to make all city property, so it'll be labor.
Oh, yeah,
So
fire marshals.
Yeah, state fire marshal grant that I sent out.
So we just got it?
You've been awarded it, yes.
when would we, okay, so,
It'd have to be a supplemental, right?
yeah, it has to be because.
I sent it out to everybody.
But
Bunch of rah rah, we just got a $250 million.
Just a couple days ago,
Yeah,
yeah, so it's gonna have to be supplemental because.
Public works primarily, you're gonna be doing all the work.
Alrighty, page 25, hopefully we can go to the park.
I just request that you spell Tannerite correctly. Line 8.
Tanner, right?
Did you get that on? I want to spell Tannerite correctly on line 8 since they're an employer in town. Page 20, page 25, line 8. It's taking us to the OIP fund on page 25, line 8.
No, I was.
It's Tanner, ITE, all number.
We are on page 125.
25, OIP. Yes.
I have a question. Why such a big jump on the networking capital?
We have, some beginning fund balances that we didn't have because we didn't have an audit that was. So we've pretty much been working off of unknown numbers for 2 years now.
That happens to be the line that we knew last year. I believe, at the end of the year that it goes from, starting numbers.
The 305.
The,
Solar property.
the adopted budget for 22-23, where it says we started with 316,000. We knew that was not accurate because we had a property sale in the prior year that would have made that number bigger. But it's now doing updates. Perfect.
Although. If you had 350,000, then you should be at 666,000.
No, it's staying, so.
Some of the other numbers in the adopted budget column are probably gonna end up coming out different when it's audited.
And
So the interest line seems a little low in the debt to very great.
what's my number?
Line 2, the interest.
So that was a projection of what we received up to the end of March and then projecting those numbers to the end of the year.
I'm just saying, I don't know where you're keeping the money, but maybe a bigger one.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I remember the OJ. If you're waiting for questions, I'm wondering why we're not, utilizing the reserve for future expenditures line in this fund. Why is, 479,000 being put in contingency? when we could maybe do half in contingency and half in reserve for future. The line called reserve for future expenditures is supposed to be where, the amount of money that will cost you in wages from July 1 to November 15. Each fund should have that much money in reserve for future expenditures to carry us through until taxes come in. Technically, that's what that would be.
And most of the cities set up target percentage in contingency, not to exceed a certain percentage of the total fund. Just because you started the whole money, you have to do something else anyway, so.
What do you think an average number is percentage wise?
10-15% contingency.
So can I make a recommendation that we change that contingency line to 10% of the fund and then put all the rest in reserve for future expenditures?
You think?
Does the committee agree with that logic? Or do we have to?
We can make the change on the, changes made and then. As good as we can, okay, and then we'll decide.
Rick, I have one other question, so. I know that we've been working this, company project for 2 or 3 years. And initially we predicted that it would be 126 to do the project. But don't you have all the materials on hand?
Of all the materials, that 126 remaining is for the rock needed to bed the pipe and basically bury it all. That was what was left over of the original amount. So that's what's carried over to finish the job.
Okay. Anything else?
So I'm just comparing this new document with the old one we first received. And the first 3 columns are totally different in almost every instance. The historical data.
Well, it means over one, right?
Well, that's 2021,
I think it had to
2021,
have to do with the roll up, I think.
2022, 2023. Maybe I'm not understanding, I mean, this was just a few weeks ago. Same, the columns are the same. For 2021, 2022, 2023, but they're all now different. And I thought we weren't supposed to.
No, because we never actually, this first proceeding year 21-22, we do change. That has to be changed in this budget. Some of them did not get done before the budget went out. And I think there might even be 1 or 2 funds that still need to. So that has to be changed. When we get final numbers, like, I mean, here really, you know, until you get your audit done, I mean, we could put what we have in the books on it,
In the 3rd row over?
the second year, the 21. Yeah, I mean, we didn't even have audit done for that yet. Still don't. But, you know, I used what we had on our books to update that one. That has to be updated.
What about the second proceeding 2021?
That was already in there, so that just moves right onto the left. It used to be in the middle, now it goes to the left, so every year it kind of carries on.
But when the
I
numbers
think
stay the
there is
same.
compare though. From the original budget that we received in the actual column for 2021. It said we started the year with 589,086. And the new one says 457 even, which is the exact number that 21-22 started with. So I have a feeling that that's just not actually.
Every single one.
Yeah.
Because, Cause I'm looking at one that was sent out like. Several days ago, or what are we looking at? The original proposal, a little different, but different, but I mean, file that we got. So, oh, that one.
That column there. This is what we got today. That column should stay the same and it's.
Well, are you sure that this budget wasn't updated yet? I guess I would have to look at the 2021. I would see if maybe that just wasn't updated yet and then it got updated or what.
You're saying the file that we just received is in there.
The one we received 3 or 4 days ago.
That's Steve.
No, she made changes to that file.
The very first.
Okay.
The hard copy is the one that she has recent changes to the file that she sent out 4 days ago.
Okay.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe we should start putting revision numbers.
So can we just make a recommendation that we go back and look at that still today,
Yeah. Yeah.
make sure that it matches up. You want to post that?
Mhm.
What do you say? Budget turning off everybody.
Yeah, it's for both, yeah, for both fiscal years, 2021 and 21-22.
Well, we knew 21-22 was all
The
good.
21-22 will change,
But the 2021 should not.
the 2021 did not.
Anything else regarding investment? Moving on. Page 26. Water fund.
Well, I have to make a correction to what I asked for earlier. When I asked to have 10% stay in contingency and then the remainder of that line to go to reserve for future expenditures. It's not reserved for future expenditures, it should go to unappropriated ending fund balance. Which has been removed from here for some reason.
Well, we can't touch unappropriated fund balance.
I know. That's because it's gonna carry us through the new year, it's kind of like what's left over and it's gonna carry us through.
But we're not allowed to use it.
We are
Put it-
next year.
This year, can't use it this year,
Right,
can use it next year.
next fiscal year. So you're saying 10% is enough to carry us through until next fiscal year?
No,
Contingency would be something you could use in this budget year that we're working on.
But isn't that where we want to only put 10%?
contingency 10%, yeah, and then the rest goes into unappropriated ending fund balance.
Which we will not be able to touch at all during this year.
Right.
Exactly.
could you with the supplemental line request?
Yes, you could have.
Yeah.
You have to have a reason, like you have
Yeah.
to have like an emergency year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it can't just be.
Yeah.
Right, but we're supposed to be budgeting based on, reality of what it really costs to run a fund, so technically we should be safe with the 10% contingency and the rest to carry us over the next year.
Same issue with the water fund. All the numbers from 2021 are different. From the first budget, everyone.
Rick,
Yes.
on water, line 18,
Yes.
what was the change from what we've initially got? Almost cut in half. materials and service and supplies.
I think that utilities and professional services. We're actually put in.
Oh, okay, yep.
So I have a question, why is uniform allowance still out all by itself? Isn't that something that could have been rolled up into like?
Because it's something required through the union, so they wanted to keep it separate.
I have a question about that too. Why is it 165,000 and then down to 2,000?
It was a typo on the first one, it was copied over from the line above.
So it's supposed to be 2,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Expensive uniforms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you can see in the historical data that.
And your new equipment line went to zero.
New equipment line, all got transferred to that.
Okay, so that's why.
Except for new equipment less than $5,000 is that got wrapped up into materials and services.
Yeah.
And that's represented on there.
Yeah.
Line one. I could jump. Double.
Yeah, that's where we were accounting for the property sale.
Water.
Oh, some water. Sorry.
There was a pretty good amount of money that was set aside in for savings style. For example, that would, this is on the SP LV 11. If you look at it, you'll notice the first proposed year is double that of every other year because it was money that wasn't spent from last year's budget that carried over into this year's budget. And that's why you're seeing such a large beginning fund balance.
The transfers. We're not-
Sorry?
Are we talking about the transfers we're gonna make? Right, for those funds.
Well, no
They
way.
just kept rolling back into the.
Yes, the money was never spent. For example, there was 30,000 for a backhoe, 80,000 for a back truck.
Which is why we
90,000
did
for a
the
dump truck. And then that's represented in LV 11. If you look at LV 11 year 1, year 2, you'll notice everything drops way off on year 2. Because I was under the impression and told that there had been money not spent from last year's budget for those reasons. And then rather than losing it into the beginning fund balance like this, that's when we decided let's propose an equity of the LV 11.
We could probably do the same thing that Councilor Kenyon mentioned with the contingency on this sheet as well.
Okay. I agree.
So one thought is other cities I've seen that they have a recapitalization that's built into their water rates. You have a percentage of their water rate is recapitalization. What they do is they look at their infrastructure and they figure out what it's going to cost to replace it when it fails. And they amortize it over X number of years from when it was new. And then you just build that in as a recapitalization. Kind of similar to what you're doing with the equipment, but this would be major infrastructure pumps.
Isn't that what the water reserve fund was set up for?
No.
Water reserve fund was.
No,
There's a water bond fund and there's a water reserve. Fund.
correct. So there's like 25,000 a year going into a water reserve fund. So I'm wondering if that's what that was initially set up for.
That was initially set up for, whenever we decided we might need to use it for in the future. It was it wasn't a specific item.
But, and I'm not saying we have anything,
Yeah.
this committee, but it's going forward, we ought to maybe think about making part of that of the water rate. If we're charging our people, it doesn't have to increase, but make it a part of that water rate. And then it becomes a,
Like a percentage or when.
well, it's a hard fast number. You gotta figure out what your infrastructure is gonna cost per place. And then figure out how many years until it fails, or a certain, each piece of equipment has a different lifespan. And then you calculate that into, water rates.
Okay.
Is the professor personnel services, is that change just because of the tenured employee versus not, the FTEs been doing, but health insurance went up?
We did a little bit of changing on how we are dividing up the expenses for employees. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah, and we're now paying all of the employees.
Okay.
Health insurance.
But the downward curve is when you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I
the
didn't take
contract.
that line,
Yeah, that's probably a separate thing.
I have a question regarding line 7, I guess it would be, public works overhead to other funds. Looks like that was eliminated. What's that about?
I didn't know that line item.
We don't even know what it was
Yeah.
for. We're maybe thinking it was when we were getting money for the public works guy who was out on disability, safe or something like that.
Oh, for Clint, when he was out on the Zoom, yeah.
I'm thinking that's what it was, and it never got removed last year because we didn't know what it was. So, yeah. It's obviously not coming in.
Hope he's back to work.
I think that's actually, that's actually something I can remember from the past. It might have been something that should have said from other means, because it was in the resource section, and we actually have allocation in, I think it's either streets or parks or both, where we transfer money from those to
The only one that has it is park, because they've been off.
Enterprise should be also.
Yeah.
only pointing it out because we might need to remove it somewhere else then.
That we get some more.
That line item was in the last, it was in OID. Same number too.
Yeah.
Just in general, I think the same applies as far as the operating deficit.
Okay.
Yeah, in parks, we have public works personnel allocation. Transfer. I don't know.
So we have to keep this going.
Yeah, in streets in the third years on line 12, we had public works overhead transfer to other funds.
Where we're coming from.
Well, actually, it's in resources. So it's like it's, I don't know, the tricky from other funds. I don't know, probably government.
But it would pushes water. Anyone? All right, wastewater. Page 27.
got excited for a second because all the numbers were matching from 2021 until I got down to the end. And then, I realized the difference from the ending balance.
Beginning balance.
Why has the wages gone down? Line 16. From the original proposal.
I think they were over budgeted before.
And
I,
again,
that one I did percentages over and over and over, and I had the same exact question, but when I did the percentages increases. I just think they were over budgeted, and on top of that, an individual from that fund is no longer full-time, work half-time, so I think that contributed to that as well.
I think it kind of looks like the insurance
Okay.
changed by about the same amount, because the grand totals are the same. So maybe it was just on the wrong line before.
Oh, so you're referring to 14 and 16? That's
Yeah.
exactly what happened there, yeah, there was, yeah.
Okay.
What is line 10?
Line 10,
Same.
yeah, the one we were just, that's the one we were just having, so.
Each of these lines is, has basically its own general ledger code though, right? Maybe not on here, but in your system it does.
well, it's gonna be many general ledger codes, that's why we did this, to get rid of that big long line, but yeah.
Okay. So then I'm just wondering if we could look at the general ledger code for line 10, or if you could in, in your time in the.
Well, I do know that we looked it up and nothing was done with it last year. And.
Huh. In the
Ended up
actual,
with the budget.
in the 2 years that have actuals, it does say we did spend stuff, so. Maybe that'll help you understand what it was spent on,
Well, this wastewater hasn't been.
or received, it's a revenue, I'm saying.
Dispatch services. Running.
No, it's not me.
What was that?
Dispatch services,
What was the question about?
is it not a thing anymore?
Not for public works. We're just making police and fire pay for it, because public works doesn't really use it.
Thank you.
And I'm noticing down on line 54, we had budgeted some contingency. But now there's none. But then there is reserved for future expenditures. And no unappropriated ending fund balances. Isn't contingency something that we should have some, like the 10% in the other fund?
Yeah, we can do the same thing with this one.
Right.
Yeah.
Across the board.
But, what you mentioned in the other fund, I was gonna point out is the same situation, you see on the screen, like, for example, the 5-yard dump truck. 40,000 this year, maybe 10,000 next year, so using up what had been saved over.
Yeah.
And then it drops the number, the amount, the proposed amount dropped down in future years.
So I have a question, in the debt service section. When we look at prior year's actuals, it looks like we were paying a lot more interest than we were principal.
One number,
Oh, 37 and 38.
I actually think I looked at that, but I'll have to I'll have to look at it again, but I think they were being entered backwards.
Oh. And so it's just, kind of looks like the numbers were the same each year, and now we're paying more each year towards the interest and principal. You know what line?
I'd have to look up this bond payment, schedule. Like it's both schedules.
Would that be common that a bond payment would increase over time?
It just depends on the schedule and how it is, really. So, okay. Okay, forward,
Should go down and principal should go up.
right. Hopefully.
right? No more questions, comments? Very good. So. That leaves us page 28. Stormwater.
Here's why lines were added, such as asset management on 10. Wasn't on the initial budget we sent out. It's appeared now, but we're not budgeting anything for it.
I think we might have
Didn't
pulled it out of the, either it was there or we pulled it out of the. Since we're not using it anymore, I think we might have pulled it out of where it was combined. To show that way it can kind of drop
Drop off.
Yeah.
What was the drop for an admin overhead on line 11 and?
What was the what?
Why did we drop line, the admin overhead in 21, 22? Right, pretty significant drop there.
I think that's when Brian restructured how the admin overhead was being allocated to different funds. Based on, I remember right. I had you guys like figure out insurances and things like that.
When we did the math on the admin overhead, kind of unfortunate.
And then we went back up to 10.
And now it's kind of.
to 21. I'm just curious on how. It just doesn't make sense when you jumped, you went down. I guess it looks like a roller coaster. Just curious what the theory is there.
Needs to be a formula, I think, related to FTE and admin.
Well, the hard thing with this one is there's no FTEs and stormwater.
No, I mean, really about the FTE in there and how much work they're doing for that fund.
Oh, right, yeah, it's just kind, I mean, it's not always an exact science,
No,
really.
well, you guys did, just sit down with Leah, and Jackie and.
Oh, when we did it back then?
Yeah.
Public Works did hourly for what, oh, yeah, okay, so for administration.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, work there tonight for each night.
So I was thinking, yeah, we broke out by percentage wise, what we expected to hourly
For accounts payable, accounts receivable,
and,
and finance director and you,
right.
okay.
That's good.
Could the committee see a breakdown of what what admin overhead means? Because at one time we were told it was just for the personnel that it takes to run those other funds. But then I thought when it was updated, when you guys worked on it, that it was to include like insurance and equipment, that's being moved around and.
Insurance paid by the.
Everything the general fund pays, like all the insurance for everything. The general fund pays for all the building insurance, all the equipment, all the vehicles.
Right,
You know, it pays for every single piece of paper that we used to bill out our billing. I mean, the
Okay.
postage, I mean, on and on.
I get what you're saying, so, what, I guess my question. Arises is there was, formula change came up with that, so it looks like in 21-22 we dropped it down to 3,000 and whatever the configuration is, I'm just curious. What the big difference is from going all the way up to 21 this year? The staffing really hasn't changed in admin, right? So what was the big change that made the jump from 3,000 to 21 is my question.
What went from 3 to 10 and then to 21.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a matter of stormwater paying really their share of everything. I mean, $3,000 even then covered.
Yeah, 3,000 even roughly low, yeah.
that fund is pretty well funded, and it's not bad for anything. So it makes sense to me that we're-
Saying it's small percentages, thinking of the response and play here.
So how did we come to the number of 3,000 and then how did we come to the 21?
I don't know where the 3,000 came from.
So it's not just a flat percentage increase for each fund, you guys vary it, which is, these
Right,
bigger funds seem to have smaller increases in comparison to. This smaller fund has a $10,000 increase. Yeah. For 11,267.
Is it just because this fund can afford it?
well, that's how a lot of them are set up. I mean, really, the admin overhead, the more money that they have, the more revenues, the more, the more admin overhead, of course, they're gonna have.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering, is, I do remember this being a very lengthy discussion at the time, I'm not saying we need to go that way right now, but at the time. We wanted to get away from that, we wanted to have a very structured, like the way that it was looked at, more of a equity throughout all the departments.
Which is why Rick went through that process with.
So is that how we came to the 20 number? Or,
And
I think it's how they came up with the 3,000. Back then.
that's why,
I mean, this is something that I talked to the auditor with when I talked to her the other day, and she said she was willing to come in and sit with me before the next budget cycle and figure out how we want to figure that out. Do we want to do it on FTE? Do we want to do it on a percentage of gross, what they of their revenues, or how do we want to do that? Because it can be done in so many different ways.
yeah, that's probably what I'm getting at, so we've
Yeah.
been through this every budget year.
Yes,
And when you look at this, it looks like we've changed methodologies every single year, when you look at the first.
that was kind of my question too.
I would like to see consistency is all I'm saying.
That's what I'm wondering about, that was created a few years ago, and could we look at that? And then see how that applies to each fund today, the same way instead of.
Yeah.
So if that was for year 21, 22, when did that, for the 3,000, trying to place the years, was that Bill or?
I think Bill did it.
I think Bill did, because the one that I did was largely public works related. And then I think that Bill copied what I had done
To the other.
and applied it to other things. So I'm not so sure that the 3,000 was on my watch. I think maybe the 1630 could have been on my watch, but I would like to do a little research before I claim the 3,000 as being on my watch. I'm not, even then, I do believe that Bill was here to give most of the admin, allocations.
I just want to go on the record that I think that has been a bone of contention every single year that the methodology changes, and I think
Yeah.
we need to figure out, and the budget committee is a great place to do it. You come up with a proposal, and we see what you're including in it, and that way we can say, yeah, this is, we want to follow this every year.
Yeah, well, it won't be this year, but it will be something, like I said, I just literally looked about it the other day, so it's like, this is like insane.
And assuming the same work like might be in other departments as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
Sounds.
Well, it has to record, it's got to account for, I assume, Leah's work,
All kinds, yeah. I mean, there's so much,
lower.
yeah,
I just want to say, I absolutely understand the need for it. Yeah, it totally makes sense.
So another thing to add to the confusion is there's the proposed budget and then the actual budget. So even if the formula was on my watch, how things are being charged out, and if we're talking about paper, staples, insurance, if it's not being charged out throughout the entire year, diligently, your numbers here will be different because that's an actual, not a budgeted. So you could do the formula all day long for the budget process, but if it's not diligently put in the right fund or spent out of the right fund through the year, it won't reflect here.
Well, they do the admin overhead, just kind of like a transfer. They get on that, fund and move it into the general.
Right, right. But what we don't see here is, sure, we see the first preceding year, which is an actual, but we don't see what that.
That's true. We don't see what she actually transferred last year until it becomes a. And it's about it.
Well, that's a great one. That's anything else on stormwater. So there are no more funds for public works except for the ones being proposed. Page 29. Unfortunately, the backup information. This is only for year one. Most of the items are 6-year. No, one of the 6 is a bunch of 5s and some 4s.
And are you counting the years that we've already had some money for those things got moved over as part of the 4 years or 6 years? Okay.
So for example, this one here is the transfer to stormwater, and if you see the. No, that's, it was in, sorry, everybody, it was in this mode. Okay, so, there was stuff that was saved up, if you look, backhoe, back truck, 5-yard dump truck. For this year is larger than all of the following preceding years to account for stuff that's already been saved. So we could put it all in there. But I do also highly propose, so some LB 11s will say this is for not a reserve fund reviewed or to be continued or abolished after 10 years. I would highly recommend it reviewed every year. And that would be any ordinance that would establish it.
I'm concerned about how this fund balances with the resources at 150,000 coming in from other funds. And then it says capital outlay is 954,000.
Which we're missing.
Usually resources and requirements.
No, items 2 and 3.
Wastewater.
Yeah, the contribution, missing contributions there. Um,
Oh.
Why? My computer is doing that.
Transfers to the interfund transfer,
So wage. So
Three
wastewater
hundred
should be.
and 63,000 from wastewater.
Thank you, Brown. You got the 495, 70.
Is that to make it landfill? We're in the time.
Yeah, the computer just give up or something.
Everyone.
Working on it. A little off.
Yeah, that makes the resources equal 1,000,009,200. So we do have a difference.
I think it might be, the difference might be in the water fund. If you go to the water fund. Potentially line 40. The water fund reserve. Maybe,
Right?
if you go back to the water fund, page
Oh.
26,
Yeah, part of it goes to water fund reserve, not to the LB 11,
Correct, 2,500, 25,000.
25,000.
Yes, correct. So if you see, I'm sorry, I did have that. Let me pull that one up real quick.
So 1, 0, 1,
that works, that's correct, that's in the.
200 minus 25.
Are you talking about,
Perfect.
the orange circle right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yes, if you look, that one is not blue, that one is not transferring, that transfer to the fund. No, it is an outgoing transfer, but it's not outgoing to the proposed LV 11.
Right.
Basic update plans.
So the water number is 475,700.
No, line 479,
700.
479,
I think it's 470, 700.
You take away the 25.
Yes.
Oh,
We'll look at the clock stocks and we-
470,700, right?
Yeah, so line 1 should be 363,000. Line 2 should be 470,700.
And then the grand total is 934,200.
So, let me change my screen. Quick. I know it's not hard to see.
Are you at 993,200?
The water's is more so than. From that screen versus the paper.
Yeah, the water one's wrong.
When I do take away 25,000 from 5047, I get 479700.
Sorry, what was that? What are you talking
I
about?
took $25,000 off of 495,700.
Why did you take that?
If you go back to water fund.
It says 4954.
Gotcha. Line
I
40.
didn't take it.
Line
That's
50,
what it was, yeah, that's,
495.70, minus 725, would be the force.
we will have to iron out that
70.
mistake. But what I had intended was 363 for line number 1, for line number 2,
Line number 2 should be 470700.
what I intended for line number 479700.
477.
For line 1, 363,
363,000 for line 1.
Yeah, 477.
Yeah, line 2, 470700.
That's on the.
On line 2, you have 479.
On that one.
47.
But the paper stuff. Updated. The one you gave me, the one with the date.
And on the water, so I think you just have something. up there.
Yeah, so if you go back to water,
Yeah, you add. up there.
26.
Interfund transfer though, it was 477.
so water is counting the, yep, there's a problem.
Oh, that one one's wrong.
What are you seeing, Don?
Well, she's looking at the
Speaking
screen.
of right now, it says the water.
Yeah, that-
Just moved it.
At 48.
He's gotta fix it.
Yeah, transferring from water should be 470700. If the numbers on water fund, page 26 are correct.
What I will say is,
Okay, 9, 8.
it should not be counting 48.
Okay, so the
That's
valves,
48. You guys see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Right, but look at what it says right there. You, not the formula, but the actual answer.
the valves is different, Rick. The valves on the screen, you have up on the screen, is 15,000, it should be 6,000.
Well, we'll have
Oh,
to,
we took it back.
well, I guess we'll have to get back to you with the correct numbers.
Well, are the valves 15,000 or 6,000?
Like I said, we'll have to get back to you with that.
You do it now, great.
Any other questions, or the, except for those errors? No. Turn it back over to the chair.
Right, thank you, Rick.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else from anybody? We're gonna continue.
Well, let's wait real quick. I just want to make sure that what happened tonight doesn't happen for Tuesday. That we could be prepared and send things out for folks at least one day in advance. They can look it over. Is that possible? We have a city council meeting tomorrow. And we have the weekend. Tree planting.
Can it also be in printed form? So it's not 79 pages and I have to figure it out?
What's that?
When I looked at the one you emailed, it's 79 pages.
Oh, that's good, that's the Excel sheet. That was requested, by the committee, so,
That wasn't.
yeah, if you print the Excel.
Don't print it. No, I
It's 'cause
didn't.
it's like one thing.
Yeah.
But I wanted something to look at, I wasn't, I like flipping through the screen, 79 pages.
Yeah. Something what are you getting at, if we have another meeting on Wednesday, will we have time to?
We have a meeting on Tuesday.
Sorry, Tuesday. You're getting a meeting time to look at this.
I know I do.
I do too.
And-
You would like time, I need at least some of the numbers. Realistically.
So that
I
would
would say
take,
24, like me personally.
would take 24. Also, because it's a Tuesday, that if it's 48, that would. I don't know. Can you send it out on Sunday for me or not?
No, I don't have time to work with them.
What are we looking at next?
Tuesday, 17.
Weeks and
Police and fire.
Realistically, we're getting way closer, so it shouldn't really be much changes, so. Let's see why. Whatever the revision is, supposed to up tonight. Gonna be done and sent out Monday evening, right?
Is
End
that,
of day Monday.
you're gonna go through and do kind of some of the general changes we talked about,
Yeah.
police and fire. And then update this other stuff that we're focused on police and fire,
Is that
so
what
it
next
shouldn't be,
week?
Police and fire is Tuesday, so
so it shouldn't be changing too much. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, I'll make the requested changes from today. And then,
Are you saying people wouldn't even get it till Monday night? Or are you saying Sunday night?
she's saying she can't work over the weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's sounding like end of the day, Monday. But that's it, but we have to have not only the changes that we made tonight, but police and fire ready to go, so people can look at it.
police, I know is done, I don't know what they're doing with theirs. I know that, Chief Pollitt had a few questions on his that we're gonna get over tomorrow, so hopefully we get that finished up. Tomorrow.
I was just wondering, because it might be. We have it, so is there a bunch of changes that we know if they're gonna happen to it?
Yeah.
No, I already,
Okay.
Well, police wages. Were,
they're in there now.
okay,
They're in there, correct, they're in, you know.
yeah, they're.
On the one that we got today. It still got this. Oh, I didn't, I don't think I looked at the page. I didn't go there.
We didn't part the way we
Yeah.
maybe that.
It didn't carry over.
Same plan.
It didn't, but it didn't say, 90, that was 40. 495, 544. That's different.
It's really right, I think we should start in 2 months before we do. Seems ridiculous to me.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of work to be done. And,
Oh, there it is.
Well, is it a possibility to have a different day next week? Instead of,
there's,
Yeah, then it becomes a noticing,
oh, the Tim Day thing?
yeah, because it put out specific dates of a notice.
Okay.
plus we have the charter review committee meeting this Wednesday.
Well, another option would be if we're not ready for police and fire. We could do, if we're ready for police, we could do police and then. Other stuff that's simple, like,
Like a whole meeting.
We just did only police and then we come back to public works. Public works, I'm sorry, this stuff we have corrections for today. And do police and then correction for, didn't you say police was ready?
Yeah, I think you should be all done.
That's
It's correct in here
Yes.
on the second line.
Just take care of police and then.
Yeah, it depends on how, what. We've got over tomorrow, so.
Yeah, she got a meeting with Scott tomorrow. We may not get through both police and fire, but I think we should try to do that. We don't have.
Well, we feel pretty good about police, but, oh yeah, keep on the.
Yeah.
And then we'll catch up on the next one. for the next one.
We've only got 3 more meetings.
So if we were to say we wanted to add more, do we have to do a 10-day advertisement? And if so, I'm suggesting we get that for a
I have a notice breach.
5 to 30 days.
5 to 30.
You mean the original.
Yeah, sometimes it'll have a little caveat on there for more meetings as needed.
I did say, I did put that.
So I think we're okay.
Yeah. I think she was putting more in.
Why are we delaying on fire? What's the delay on fire?
I should, I mean, we should.
I don't think we should want to either. But I do, I mean, it'd be nice to have the 2 meetings.
So by the end of the day, Monday, if you can get it out to people? You weren't in the room, but there was, felt some discontent. Folks like that. I wasn't gonna go there, but we'd like to have stuff to review, you know, sort of
Ahead of time.
beforehand. I think it's doable. You think it's doable?
That's true.
So we're not adjourning here, we're continuing to next week.
Good thing.
Right. That's happened today. Be back Tuesday, it's that.
Maybe it's. March 16.
Thank you, everyone online. Thank you.